As the last Xaurith vessel was obliterated, the battlefield fell silent. The once mighty biofleet was now nothing more than drifting wreckage, twisted, burned, and lifeless. Humanity had done what no other species had dared to do. They had not just defeated the Xaurith, they had eradicated them. On the bridge of the Revenant, Admiral Bishop stood motionless, staring at the scattered remains of the enemy. His crew exchanged quiet glances, unsure of what to say. There was no celebration, no cheers of victory, only the cold realization of what had just happened. General Adrienne Cole's voice crackled over the comms. "Admiral, the battlefield is secured. What are your orders?" Bishop didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to his comms officer. "Status report." Lieutenant Hayes scanned the data. "Enemy forces are completely wiped out. No survivors detected. Our fleet sustained moderate losses, but nothing catastrophic." Bishop nodded slowly. A victory, but a costly one. Then a new transmission appeared on the main display. It was coming from the original species that had called for help. The small, fragile beings who had unknowingly unleashed humanity's fury. A trembling alien, with pale skin and wide, fearful eyes, appeared on the screen. His voice shook as he spoke. "Humans, you have saved us, but at what cost?" Bishop's expression didn't change. "Your people will live. That's what matters." The alien swallowed hard. "Yes, but the way you fight, the way you destroyed them, we have never seen such power. The Xaurith were feared across the stars, but you..." He hesitated. "You are something else." Bishop's gaze was unreadable. The Xaurith made a mistake. They thought we were like the others. Weak, afraid. He took a slow step forward. "Now the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity is not prey. We are the storm." The alien shivered. The message was clear. The Xaurith had been the terror of the galaxy, until now. A new terror had taken their place. Across the battlefield, the Black Armada regrouped. Ships moved in formation, recovering the wounded and salvaging what little remained. In the darkness of space, the wreckage of the Xaurith fleet floated like a graveyard, a silent warning to anyone who might think to challenge Earth. Humanity had answered the call for help. And now, the galaxy would never forget what they had unleashed. As the Xaurith dreadnought was obliterated in a storm of antimatter fire, the battlefield descended into chaos. The remaining Xaurith forces, once an overwhelming terror, were now nothing more than scattered prey. The Black Armada wasted no time. From the Warhound, General Adrienne Cole's voice rang out. "All ships push forward. No survivors." The order was merciless, but necessary. The Xaurith were not just an enemy. They were a plague on the galaxy. If any of them escaped, they would return stronger. That could not happen. Human destroyers and cruisers surged ahead, their railguns and missile pods unleashing destruction on the retreating Xaurith ships. The enemy fleet was breaking apart, their smaller vessels turning to flee. Some attempted to fight back, their organic cannons fitting streams of acid and bioplasma, but the Black Armada's defenses held strong. From her Valkyrie-class interceptor, Commander Lena Graves watched the slaughter unfold. Her hands gripped the controls, her heart still pounding from the insane mission they had just completed. She opened a channel to Admiral Bishop. "Sir, the enemy is in full retreat. Should we pursue?" There was a long silence. Then Bishop's voice came through. "We pursue. No survivors." Graves smirked. Humanity did not believe in half measures. Her squadron took off after the fleeing ships. Valkyrie interceptors weaved through the battlefield, hunting down Xaurith vessels before they could escape. One by one, the enemy's numbers dwindled. On board the Revenant, Lieutenant Hayes monitored the battle. "Sir, we've destroyed 85% of their fleet. Only a few capital ships remain." Bishop nodded. "Then it's time to send a message." The Xaurith had sent a message of terror to the galaxy. Now, humanity would send one back. Patch me through to the surviving Saurith command ship. A moment later, the main screen flickered. A grotesque, insectoid face filled the display. That Saurith commander, its exoskeleton cracked and leaking a thick, black fluid, glared at Bishop with alien hatred. Bishop's voice was cold. "You begged for help. Now you beg for mercy." The Saurith creature hissed. You are not saviors. You are monsters." Bishop's expression remained unreadable. "And yet you called us. You brought this on yourselves." The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly in fury. "Human, we will never forget this." Bishop leaned forward. "Neither will the galaxy." With a nod to his weapons officer, the Revenant's main railguns fired. The Saurith command ship vanished in a ball of fire. With that, the battle was over. The Saurith fleet was no more. As the battlefield quieted, a new reality settled in. The Saurith were once a dominant force in the galaxy. Now, they were nothing but wreckage drifting in the void. But for the Black Armada, this was only the beginning. Humanity had answered the call for help, and the galaxy would never forget what it had unleashed. The Black Armada surged forward, every ship unleashing its full firepower. Railguns roared, plasma beams cut through the void, and missile barrages streaked toward the Saurith dreadnought. The beast's outer shell was already cracking from the internal damage caused by the stealth frigates, but it still refused to die. On the bridge of the Revenant, Admiral Bishop watched as the dreadnought's core pulsed violently, preparing to unleash another devastating energy blast. "We won't survive another hit," Hayes muttered, sweat dripping down his brow. Bishop's eyes were locked onto the holographic display. His mind raced through possibilities. A direct assault wasn't working, and their stealth attack had only weakened the creature. They needed something else, something final. A second screen flickered to life, showing General Adrienne Cole aboard the Warhound. "Admiral, our weapons aren't enough. We need a doomsday strike." Bishop exhaled sharply. It was a risk, but there was no other choice. "Prepare the Leviathan torpedo," he ordered. A hush fell over the bridge. The Leviathan was humanity's most powerful weapon, a tactical antimatter warhead designed to erase anything it touched. It had only been tested once, on an uninhabited moon that no longer existed. "The dreadnought's defenses will adapt," Hayes warned. "If we fire now, it might survive." Bishop's expression darkened. "Then we get inside." The plan was insane, but insanity was what humans did best. Commander Lena Graves, leader of the Reaper Squadron, received her orders. She smirked as she locked onto her target. "All right, boys, we're going in." Her squadron of Valkyrie-class interceptors peeled away from the main battle. Their objective: punch through the dreadnought's living armor and create a direct path for the Leviathan torpedo. As they closed in, the dreadnought responded. New, twisted bioweapons emerged from its ruptured hull, massive tentacle-like appendages lashing out, spewing acid and energy blasts. One Valkyrie was caught mid-flight. The pilot barely had time to scream before his ship was crushed like an insect. Graves gritted her teeth. "Stay in formation. We break through, no matter what." The Reapers weaved and dodged, their ships dancing through the enemy's deadly assault. Plasma rounds and micro-missiles struck at weak points, forcing open wounds in the dreadnought's armor. Then Graves saw it, a gaping wound near the creature's core, pulsing with unstable energy. "This is it. Target marked." Bishop didn't hesitate. Launched the Leviathan. Aboard the Warhound, the torpedo was primed. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The Leviathan torpedo fired. A streak of pure destruction raced toward the dreadnought. The biomonster screamed, sensing the incoming doom. Its body shifted, twisted, regenerated, trying to seal the wound before impact. But the Reapers weren't done yet. Graves and her squadron unloaded everything they had, blasting apart the last layers of armor, keeping the wound open just long enough. The Leviathan torpedo hit. For a split second, everything was silent. Then, A white explosion erupted, brighter than a dying star. The sheer force of the detonation ripped through the dreadnought, consuming it in a cascade of fire and antimatter energy. The Xalrith beast was no more. The shockwave ripped across the battlefield, sending smaller bioships tumbling. The surviving Xalrith forces, now leaderless, began to scatter. On the bridge of the Revenant, Hayes let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. We did it." Bishop didn't smile. He turned to his comm officer. "Send a message to the fleet. No mercy. Wipe the rest of them out." Across the battlefield, the Black Armada advanced one final time. The hunt was not over. Humanity had answered the call for help. And now, the galaxy would know its true power. On board the fleet's flagship, Admiral Bishop remained cold and calculating. Focus fire on their command vessels, cut off their ability to coordinate. Destroyers and battleships shifted formation, unleashing devastating barrages against the largest enemy ships. One by one, the towering bio-warships began to collapse, their bodies splitting open in bursts of toxic gas and flames. But the Xalrith did not retreat. They never retreated. From the heart of the swarm, something enormous emerged. A dreadnought, larger than anything humanity had faced before. Its carapace pulsed with an eerie crimson light, and its form twisted unnaturally, as if it were alive in ways beyond understanding. The moment it arrived, the battlefield shifted. Hayes' voice trembled. "What is that thing?" The massive creature opened its maw. Energy built within its core, forming a supercharged pulse of raw destruction. Bishop's eyes narrowed. Brace for impact. The weapon fired. The Xalrith dreadnought's weapon fired. A massive beam of crimson energy tore through space, moving faster than anything the human fleet had encountered before. The blast slammed into one of the Black Armada's destroyers, Vanguard, and in an instant, the ship was gone. No wreckage, no explosion, just obliteration. A stunned silence filled the bridge of the Revenant. Lieutenant Hayes gripped his console. Direct energy disintegration. That's impossible. Admiral Bishop's face remained unreadable, but his mind was racing. The Xalrith had never shown weapons of this magnitude before. Had they been holding back? Or was this something new? General Adrian Cole's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. "We cannot allow that thing to fire again. All ships, focus fire on the dreadnought." The order was met with immediate action. Railguns, plasma cannons, and missile salvos erupted from the human fleet. Thousands of tons of destructive firepower streaked across the void, slamming into the Xalrith behemoth. But the monster didn't break. Instead, its living armor shifted, absorbing the kinetic impacts. Missiles detonated harmlessly against its hide. Even the high-energy beams from human battlecruisers barely left scorch marks. Hayes' voice wavered. "It's adapting." The dreadnought's core pulsed again, and within seconds, another blast of energy was building. Bishop gritted his teeth. "If that thing fires again, we lose another ship." Cole's response was immediate. "Then we stop it." From the side of the battlefield, a formation of stealth frigates broke away from the main fleet. Moving undetected, they weaved through the debris field, staying hidden from the Xalrith's awareness. Their target, the exposed vent-like structures on the dreadnought's underside. On board the lead frigate, Captain Elias Carter gripped the controls, his heart pounding. "All right, boys, let's give this monster a sore throat." The frigates uncloaked just beneath the behemoth, their weapons already primed. A barrage of hyper-penetrating torpedoes launched, streaking toward the weak spots. The moment they hit, a ripple spread across the Xalrith dreadnought's body. Its organic plating twisted violently as it tried to adapt. It was too late. A chain reaction erupted from the inside, and for the first time in the battle, the monster screamed. A deep, unnatural sound that echoed through space, vibrating through every ship's hull. But it wasn't dead yet. The creature shifted, turning its massive bulk toward the frigates. Before they could escape, a swarm of biodrones erupted from its side. Thousands of them, moving like a tidal wave of death. Captain Carter's eyes widened. Evasive maneuvers. The swarm struck. The first frigate was shredded in an instant, its hull torn apart by razor-sharp appendages. Another was engulfed in acidic fluids, melting before it could even fire its engines. Carter's ship barely managed to evade the slaughter, but his crew wasn't out of danger yet. Requesting immediate support, he shouted into the comms. Bishop's eyes narrowed. He turned to his officers. Deploy the Reapers. From the human carriers, the Reaper squadron launched. These were not ordinary pilots. These were the best humanity had, the elite Black Wing Corps, each piloting a Valkyrie-class interceptor, machines built for one thing: total destruction. Commander Lena Graves led the charge, her ship weaving through the battlefield like a ghost. All right, boys. Let's clear the sky. With pinpoint precision, the Reapers tore into the biodrones. Plasma rounds, missile strikes, and high-speed maneuvers turned the tide. Within minutes, the Xalrith swarm was being annihilated. But the dreadnought was still alive, and its core was charging again. Bishop's voice rang out across the fleet. All ships, full assault. We end this now. As one, the Black Armada surged forward. Inside one of their command ships, Overlord Zakar, leader of the swarm, studied the galactic transmissions. He had ignored the Galactic Alliance for years, crushing their fleets with ease. But now, something new had entered the battlefield. Human warships. Huge, heavily armed, moving in numbers that defied logic. Zakar clicked his mandibles in amusement. They think they can stop us. His second-in-command, a massive insectoid warrior, hissed. They are an unknown variable. Should we be concerned? The Overlord let out a guttural laugh. No, they are flesh, like all the others. And flesh burns. He turned his gaze toward the nearest human fleet. Let them come. We will consume them, just as we have consumed everything else. Back in the Sol system, the final preparations had been made. Standing at the command deck of the Revenant, General Adrienne Cole watched as the last warships joined the formation. All fleets are ready, a tactical officer reported. Admiral Bishop's voice crackled over the comms. On your command, General. Cole took a deep breath. Then let's remind the galaxy who we really are. The engines of the Black Armada roared to life. One by one, the warships activated their jump drives. And in a flash of burning light, humanity's most dangerous fleet vanished into hyperspace, heading straight for war. The Black Armada surged through hyperspace, their massive warships cutting through the void like ancient predators finally unleashed. For centuries, humanity had hidden its true strength, but now, there was no need for secrecy. The call for help had been answered, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to awaken the storm. Admiral Bishop stood at the bridge of the Revenant, staring at the swirling hyperspace tunnel ahead. The bridge was silent, the tension thick. Every officer, every soldier aboard the fleet knew what was coming. A holographic screen flickered to life. General Adrienne Cole's face appeared, her expression sharp and focused. Admiral, we've received new reports. The Xalrith swarm is advancing faster than expected. If we don't intercept them soon, they'll reach the core worlds within days. Bishop nodded, his jaw tightening. Then we won't waste time. How long until exit? Less than an hour. Bishop turned to his crew. Prepare for immediate engagement. Throughout the fleet, battle stations roared to life. Pilots strapped into their fighters, engineers rushed to make last-minute checks on weapon systems, and soldiers loaded their rifles, ready to fight for the survival of the galaxy. On the bridge of the Revenant, Lieutenant Hayes studied the enemy fleet's formation. The Xalrith swarm's bioships moved in an eerie, almost organic rhythm, shifting and changing like a living creature. Their sheer numbers were staggering. There's no strategy, Hayes muttered. They're just spreading like a plague. Bishop's gaze darkened. And that's why they're dangerous. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace, Before them, the battlefield stretched out in the vast emptiness of space. Burning husks of destroyed ships floated like shattered bones, remnants of the Galactic Alliance's failed defenses. In the distance, the Tsaurith swarm loomed, their massive bioships pulsing with eerie green energy. The comms crackled. A desperate voice broke through the static. "This is Captain Ralvik of the Varnak Republic. We're barely holding the line. We need—" The transmission was cut short as his ship was torn apart in a brilliant explosion. Bishop clenched his fists. "They don't stand a chance." General Cole's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. "Then let's even the odds." With a single command, the Black Armada moved. The Revenant led the charge, its massive railguns lighting up the void. The first shots struck true, ripping through the thick exoskeletons of the enemy bioships. Explosions followed as swarms of human fighters weaved through the battlefield, unleashing precise, deadly strikes. The Tsaurith reacted with terrifying speed. Hundreds of smaller drone-like creatures, living missiles with razor-sharp appendages, rushed toward the human ships. Energy pulses and plasma beams filled the space between the fleets as the battle erupted into chaos. The Black Armada was humanity's greatest secret, a fleet of warships so powerful, so advanced, that the Alliance had once forced Earth to dismantle it. At least, that's what the galaxy believed. In reality, it had never been destroyed. It had simply gone into hiding, waiting for the day it would be needed. That day had come. A young officer swallowed hard. "Ma'am, if we deploy the Black Armada, the entire galaxy will see what we've been hiding. They will know we were never weak." Cole's lips curled into a cold smile. "Let them know." She turned to the command panel and activated the fleet-wide alert. Across the solar system, massive ships, long hidden beneath planets and moons, powered up. Giant engines roared to life. Weapons systems activated. And one by one, the ships of the Black Armada began to rise into space. Back on the capital world of the Alliance, Chancellor Virik and his council watched their monitors, waiting for a response from Earth. Then, a single message arrived. "You called for help. We answer in war." And the galaxy would never be the same again. Across the Sol system, the call had been made. The Black Armada was rising. For centuries, humanity had been forced to hide its true strength. The Galactic Alliance had kept Earth under strict control, ensuring that its warships never reached their full potential. But now, the time for hiding was over. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, entire mountains rumbled as underground bunkers opened. Gigantic warships, each the size of a city, began to rise from beneath the ice, their massive engines burning bright against the frozen surface. On Mars, hidden shipyards activated for the first time in centuries. Factories roared to life, producing weapons and armor at an unimaginable speed. Soldiers suited up, preparing for war. On Earth, deep within the military stronghold beneath the Atlantic Ocean, the final command was given. "Deploy the fleet," General Adrienne Cole ordered. The Black Armada was no ordinary fleet. It was humanity's greatest secret, designed in the shadows, hidden from prying alien eyes. While the Galactic Alliance had forced Earth to keep its ships small and weak, the truth was far more terrifying. Humanity had never stopped building. In the vastness of space, a single dreadnought-class battleship emerged from a hidden station orbiting Neptune. It was called the Revenant, a ship unlike any other in the galaxy. Towering above anything the Alliance had ever seen, its hull was reinforced with next-generation alloys, and its weapons could tear apart entire fleets in minutes. Standing on the bridge, Admiral Bishop watched as hundreds of ships appeared around him. Stealth cruisers, heavy destroyers, and massive carriers loaded with mechs, drones, and thousands of battle-hardened soldiers. "This is it," Bishop said, his voice calm but filled with excitement. "No more waiting. No more pretending to be weak." Behind him, his officers watched as more and more ships joined the formation. A lieutenant took a deep breath. "Admiral, The entire galaxy will see what we really are." Bishop turned to him with a cold smile. "Good. It's time they learned the truth." On the capital world of the Galactic Alliance, panic had already begun to spread. Grand Chancellor Virik sat in his private chamber, staring at the transmission reports. Earth had responded, but not with words. With warships. The images were horrifying. The size of these ships, the technology they carried, it was beyond anything the Alliance had ever encountered. The humans had been lying all along. "They deceived us," whispered one of Virik's advisors. His hands trembled as he stared at the images. They were never weak. Admiral Kor clenched his fists. "And now we have awakened the beast." For centuries, the Alliance had feared what humanity could become. That's why they had suppressed them, why they had denied Earth a seat at the Council, why they had controlled their expansion. But they had made a fatal mistake. They had forced humanity into a corner. And now, the humans were coming. While the Alliance trembled, the Xalrith swarm continued its rampage. Their massive bioships, covered in living armor, moved across the void like a relentless tide. The desperate plea. The Galactic Alliance had always believed itself to be the most powerful force in the universe. For centuries, its fleets had maintained peace, crushing rebellions and defeating lesser species that dared to challenge its authority. But now, the Alliance was powerless. The Xalrith swarm had come from the void, a race of monstrous, insect-like creatures that consumed everything in their path. Their ships moved like a plague, devouring entire planets, stripping them of resources, and leaving nothing but dust behind. The Alliance had sent its finest fleets to stop them. It had lost every battle. Grand Chancellor Virik stood inside the war room on the Alliance's capital world, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. More than 40 systems had fallen in just 6 months. The swarm was moving fast, faster than anyone had expected. "We are out of time," Admiral Kor said, his voice tight with frustration. "Our defenses have failed. Our fleets are crippled. We have only one option left." Virik turned to him sharply. He knew what the Admiral was about to say, and he didn't like it. "You are suggesting them," Virik said, his voice barely above a whisper. The room fell silent. No one wanted to say the name. No one wanted to admit the truth. The humans. For centuries, the Galactic Alliance had looked down on humanity. They were considered dangerous, unpredictable, a race of war-driven savages from a deadly planet known as Earth. The Alliance had refused to let them rise in power, keeping them isolated, limiting their expansion. But now, the Alliance had no choice. "We must send a distress signal to Earth," Admiral Kor said firmly. "We must ask humanity for help." Virik clenched his fists. It was humiliating, begging the very species they had suppressed for so long. But he could see the fear in the eyes of his council members. They all knew the truth. If the swarm reached their homeworld, there would be no more Alliance. With a heavy breath, Virik gave the order. "Send the message." The signal reaches Earth. Across the galaxy, the distress signal traveled through hyperspace, carrying the Alliance's plea for help. It reached the Sol system, where it was intercepted by a secret human outpost orbiting Jupiter. Inside a massive command center, deep within an underground military base, alarms blared. General Adrienne Cole, leader of Earth's defense forces, studied the incoming message with narrowed eyes. "This is unexpected," she muttered. Behind her, Admiral Bishop folded his arms, his expression unreadable. "The mighty Galactic Alliance, calling for help. I never thought I'd see the day." Cole played the message on the main screen. The holographic image of Grand Chancellor Virik appeared, his face pale and desperate. "To the leaders of Earth, this is an urgent request from the Galactic Alliance. Our worlds are falling to the Xalrith swarm. Our fleets are shattered. We cannot stop them. We know we have not treated your people fairly in the past, but now we ask, no, we beg for your assistance. If you do not help us, the swarm will consume us all." And once they are done with us, they will come for you." Silence filled the room. Officers exchanged glances, some with grim satisfaction, others with unease. For years, Earth had been ignored, denied a seat in the Alliance, treated as lesser beings, and now these same arrogant rulers were begging for help. General Cole turned off the transmission and leaned back in her chair. "They need us," she said slowly, "and they're scared." Admiral Bishop smirked. "Good. Let them be scared." But Cole wasn't smiling. She knew what had to be done. "They're right about one thing," she said. "If the swarm wipes them out, we're next. We cannot afford to let that happen." She stood up, her eyes cold and determined. "Prepare the fleet." Admiral Bishop raised an eyebrow. "Which fleet?" Cole's voice was steady. "The Black Armada." The room went deathly silent. Officers stiffened. Some looked shocked. Others looked afraid.